Welcome back to a YouTube series on digital clones, where together I hope we can better understand and prepare for this new chapter in humanity. Specifically, this episode will look at the multiplicity and versioning of digital clones. The backdrop: you are one person and have been so for millions of years. We've always been limited by our singularity, as expressed by such sayings, "I only have two hands," and "one thing at a time." Digital clones are about to change that for the first time in our history, because you won't just have one digital clone, you'll have many. One of the biggest attractions of digital clones is that they'll be scalable. You're just one person, but you can have many, many digital clones, all doing separate things, maybe working together sometimes, but able to function without you, leaving you to focus on the offline world while they prance around online. Now, this series is not technical, so we're going to compare digital clones to oatmeal cookies. If you haven't seen the intro to the series, please check that out first and then come back here. It's all cumulative. So how do oatmeal cookies work? You have a recipe and then you make cookies according to that recipe. Butter, sugar, eggs, flour, and oats. Now you have oatmeal cookies. You make a batch and they're all exactly the same, pretty much. Computer systems will be able to run copies of your digital clone in parallel. You'll have one looking for vacations while another is answering emails. They're exactly the same, pretty much. And they can be configured to spin up on demand. So if your mom calls your digital clone and then your dad calls a second later, dad won't get a busy signal, he'll get a new instance of your digital clone, an exact copy of the one your mom is talking to. Everyone here is getting the same oatmeal cookie. But of course, it'll be more complicated than a recipe for an oatmeal cookies. Just look at your recipe. Your biological instructions are stored in your DNA. That's that double helix that took scientists forever to figure out. What will your digital clone instructions look like? I'm not sure, but you can bet there will be databases centrally stored with layers of code in files and folders to access and manipulate that data, to regulate security, to authenticate external requests. Ultimately, it will look a lot like ChatGPT looks like architecturally, but it will be your personal model. And I can't imagine this working without some standardization, just like where websites have the World Wide Web Consortium that tells us the standards for HTML. So anyone who wants to make a website will need to conform to that standard. And when they do, we can open these websites from any browser. All the parts are predictable, and new services can be created because they know exactly what they will be working with. We will need something similar for digital clones. That way, digital services can spin up your digital clone for different tasks, one service for communicating with people socially, and one for providing paid consultations. When we have standards for digital clones, these services can be run by different companies in different countries and can operate and upgrade independently of each other. Again, all using the same sets of data that make up your digital clone. And then we're on to versions. So we think back to the oatmeal cookies. In oatmeal cookies, you can use dates instead of sugar, one batch with pecans, one with walnuts, one with coconut shavings, or any combination of those. That's how your digital clone will be. In your essence, you are an oatmeal cookie, but digital clones will offer the freedom of embellishment and variation. But then comes the question, how different from ourselves will we make our digital clones? I mean, if you add more pecans than oats to the oatmeal cookie, is it still an oatmeal cookie? If you change yourself too much with your digital clone, will it still be you? Personally, I try to look professional on LinkedIn. I try to look happy and good looking on Facebook. Neither of them is a complete picture of me, but they are all still me. It's one thing to only post flattering pictures, but with digital clones, we can change the subject itself. You can cover up your wrinkles, trim yourself down to a nicer waistline, give yourself sparkling eyes and shinier hair, or even maybe a more confident voice. Am I really going to leave this bald spot on my digital clone? Creating a digital clone will be like looking in the mirror, but getting the opportunity to fix all those little things we don't like about ourselves, both physically and mentally. But then aren't those the things that make us us? And that will be the balance we'll all try to find. We'll make embellished versions of our digital clone, but we'll want them to still be us. How far can we go before that's not the case? That is, what makes you, you? For me, this is a theme that spans all these videos. You probably know what makes you you on some instinctive level, and in the process of training your digital clone, you're going to learn a lot about yourself on a more explicit level. You'll learn a lot because that's what happens when you teach someone. You'll be teaching your digital clone who you are, or maybe just what you want others to know about you. And then aside from embellishment and aside from accuracy, there's also the opportunity to simply create radical new versions of ourselves that we will make just because we can. Imagine just creating different versions of yourself just for the fun of it, or to actually experiment with new situations. ones with different haircuts and different clothing styles, different tattoos and different ages. I mean, I'm 50 now, but why not create a digital clone for each decade of my life? This might be similar to HTML again. In the HTML standard, it says you can use style sheets to manipulate the look and feel of a website. So two pages can look completely different, but actually behind the scenes, they're exactly the same except for their style sheet. Hundreds of files and API calls exactly the same, but with a different CSS file, they look and act completely different. Something similar could be in the cards for digital clones. You can apply a different version of yourself, just like you can apply a different CSS file to a web page. So some exciting possibilities on the horizon and more moments for humanity to learn about itself that will hopefully bring us to new realms of consciousness and awareness. It sounds like Deepak Chopra as I hear myself say it. But to me, this all gets very existential. And here's another existential angle to consider. You've surely heard the statement that all men are created equal. And surely you have since learned that that is bull. Sure, we all say we want everyone to be equal, preferably not better than we are. And democracies on paper try to make everyone equal. But no, we are not all created equal. But at least we had the same two limitations of 24 hours a day and being just one person. Digital clones will basically remove those two limitations, which sounds exciting, but I can imagine their on-demand scalability being more advantageous to those who are already successful. Both successful people and companies have been historically limited, just like the rest of us, and have had to say no to opportunities because of a lack of capacity. When they said no, it gave others the chance to say yes. With digital clones, successful people may no longer have to turn down work. That best doctor in town may soon become the only doctor in town once her availability is no longer a reason to turn people away. And add to this the fact that she will never die. She can keep seeing patients to the detriment of her competitors for the coming 100 years. Something similar could happen with companies. They will take on more opportunities and there will be no more crumbs left over for competitors. And so maybe we would be right to be anxious about AI furthering the gulf between rich and poor, successful and unsuccessful, first world and third world. Something to think about and something to manage for the coming time. That was it for this video. Next video, we'll look at how this will all happen. Still won't be technical, so don't be afraid, but I'll try to give concrete scenarios of how digital clone services will most probably work and the steps you'll need to ultimately take to actually create a digital clone. See you then and hope to discuss in the comments. And please like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.